Ahoy, and welcome back to the Workaround. This is the 100th edition of the Workaround podcast, and there is no better way that I would like to celebrate this than to have my good friend Ryan Watson join me. I bet he didn't know this was the 100th. Did you?
I didn't. I'm
No. Well,
the first time. Hey,
you're
wow.
really
What an honor.
honored, and there'll never be another 100th. You know, most podcasts don't make it past two, I think, is the the story, but we keep going. How many listeners are out there? Don't know, but I do get some nice comments, especially on these discussions that we do with interesting people. Ryan and I were on, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I felt we had this topic that we talk about once in a while that we'll get into. I was like, okay, it's a good, this is a good one. We got to do it again here. But let me start by introducing Ryan for those who have not met him. He's my good friend and business partner. Ryan and I first got to work together at our last successful startup, Ahology. Since then, we worked on some startups that did not succeed. And then we are investing together at Fleet, which I always talk about, our holding company for service businesses. Ryan has also been, through the entire time I've known him, a partner at Upsourced Accounting, which is a future-focused financial strategy company that works with over 100 creative agencies doing accounting and fractional CFO type work for all of them. And which is always, he brings in a lot of interesting perspective, especially on conversations like this, from direct access to many, many other companies out there, like the ones you might own or be a part of. He's also the father of three, the best soccer coach in Dayton, Ohio.
It's the first true thing you've said this whole time.
That's what he's most proud of right now, probably. Most organized coach at minimum. And he's a big fan of Hallmark Christmas movies.
So
and
true.
just a really smart, somewhat sarcastic guy. So this is a great topic for us to get into. And I'll kind of kick it off with a true story from a conversation I had with a friend of mine that re-triggered this concept. And friend and I had coffee. She is working at a company that, let's just say, tried to go into a wave of technology, tried to be one of many, timing the market in a certain mini bubble that we've all come to know and love or not love. But the time of that potential quick exit for this company is come and gone. Its investors have said, you're not getting more money, and you guys need to get profitable faster. Whoever this company is led by a CEO who has never operated before, came out of an MBA program, did a couple of finance jobs, and suddenly was a CEO of a company with tens of millions of dollars, if not, I think hundreds of millions at this point of funding. Had never really run a company to be profitable before, never experienced having to worry about what happens if this opportunity, this window of a quick sale goes away. So now, what are they doing? She's telling me things like bringing in unicorn executives, heads of sales, people with heads of marketing, people with impressive experience that are going to solve all the problems. And she's seen it again and again. They make the announcement. The person does almost nothing or figures out some way to rearrange the chairs on the Titanic, does a new software implementation, changes the code, moves from HubSpot to Salesforce, one of those things that takes 6 months, and then nothing works. Yep. And they do layoffs, tell everyone this is our last round of layoffs. 6 months later, another round of layoffs. They're still making acquisitions that seem to make no sense from the beginning. And of course, there's no plan for integration once the acquisition is done. Looking back, most of the acquisitions have failed. More stuff is rolling down to her in her key operating position. But no one's asking her about her opinion. She's got 20 years of running companies like this, including companies like agencies that have gone through major problems. Her last company went through major problems that she helped turn around. And she's wondering, what's happening here. And so I'm listening to this, and as she finishes telling the story that I've heard many other times before, I just blurted out, they're all just playing business. Like children play acting in the bedroom, or
Hmm.
maybe a little, a modern version, an adult version of junior achievement, which I was a junior achievement teacher, by the way.
Hmm.
It's fun as kids, but as grown-ups, it's mostly fear, and they
Hmm.
don't know what they're doing. So they kind of act the part because they don't know what to do, and they're not getting great advice from investors who have never acted the part either. And they tend to copy what others do or assume that there's some miracle executive that's going to make everything all right, and kind of doing the things that I guess, quote, you're supposed to do. Ryan, what does
Yeah.
playing business mean to
Oh,
you?
I mean, listen, listening to this story, it's so painful because both because I again, as you mentioned in the long preamble of the things that are about true about me, I of course run a CFO practice where we work with called 140 marketing agencies. So I get to work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and you and I are both entrepreneurs, right? So it's a thing. I think it's a thing that, once you have the epiphany that you saw this thing in yourself, that you did this really painful, silly mistake, you just can't stop seeing it in other places and in others, right? So again, as I'm listening to that story, I have both like so much like pattern recognition, like, oh yeah, I've heard that story 1,000 times. I've also been part of that story 1,000 times. But anyway, yeah, listen, playing business is again, it's like the if you were to do like a control F in the Slack of our accounting Slack, it's probably the most common phrase we'll use to say, oh yeah, that's those folks are just playing business, and we don't mean that in a sort of condescending way necessarily. It's perfectly understandable how a person gets there. And we can talk more about that. But ultimately, it's, for me, playing business is the pattern where you are engaging in activities that feel like progress, that sound like what it is you're supposed to do. Yeah, people do this. I mean, you mentioned kids in a bedroom. Like, imagine kids playing house, right? Like, you got a bunch of kids playing house. When you see kids playing house, do you see them like taking out the trash? Do you see them like washing dishes or putting kids to bed? Like people who run a household, we know like this is what this looks like. But that's not what kids do when they play house, right? Kids just do the fun things like, hi, honey, I'm home. And oh, here's the baby. And you know what I mean? That's just like the same easy stuff over and over. And that's what adults do when playing business. And I believe so again, it's taking activities that are like, oh, I feel like this is progress. I'm doing stuff. I put in a full day. Whoo wee business, except that it's actually not moving the ball forward in any way. And again, I think usually that's a function of I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. And hey, newsflash, none of us know what to do. That's okay. That's a feature, not a bug. And B, there are things that I might do, and some of them are really hard, and a lot of these playing business activities are a little bit easier, right? So like path of least resistance, it's a little bit easier to do this thing that's a little performative than it is to like really sit down and grind and do the hard thing. Um, I was thinking about this a little bit before we got together, and I was, the my so I'll share a story. This is
Yeah.
actually mine. Um, so when I first started Upsource. Like I don't know if I've ever told the story before to you, Bob, but I had this. I mean, I like so clearly remember the moment when I decided that I was gonna quit my job and start this business, and I was like at home. So I was working in consulting in DC, but my parents lived in Dayton, Ohio, which is where I live now, and I was visiting them for the holidays, and I was at home. It was like, a couple days before Christmas, and I was on the couch. Everybody had gone to bed. I was sitting there, miserable, by the way, in my job. Like, couldn't hate it more than anything. And decided like, man, I can't do this anymore. It's simply not what this can't be how my career goes. I'd been doing my career for 4 years at this point, so it's not like it was a long one, but I knew for sure it wasn't the right
It's
direction. So
enough.
anyway,
It was enough.
it was enough. It was enough. I had actually been
Yeah.
doing, there's a longer story there. It's not even important. But anyway, so I decided like, listen, I can't do this corporate thing anymore. I'm gonna go out and start a business. And ultimately I had all these ideas of starting a software company or doing this, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually just going to do the thing I'm qualified to do, which is I'm going to start an accounting firm. We'll just go from there. Like, I'm going to sell the thing I can sell, and that was actually a good thought. But my very next thought was the most classic playing. The very first activity I ever took in the history of Upsourced on the couch that night was I spent the next 2 hours designing my first business card. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I absolutely must have a business card. And so, of course, I did the whole thing. I designed it, and then I eventually took it to a printer. I eventually got them all printed out. And you can imagine how many of those business cards I ever handed out.
Did you have
Maybe
CEO,
7.
CEO bitch on there?
Sure. I think I wrote principal. I think I might even spelled it wrong. I'm not sure. I was in my 20s, but either way, it's like, that's it, right? Because I'm like, I want to start a business. I don't know what to do. How does one get customers? I guess I'll just do the thing that I've seen other people do that feels like business. And, once you kind of recognize that pattern, you realize, man, so many people are doing that, not out of necessarily anything other than just naivete or ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So anyway, near and dear topic to my heart.
Well, let's maybe play with some of the example. What does that mean? What are the business card one? Obviously, is great. I'll throw out a couple.
Yeah.
And before I even say, the other point is everybody's kind of playing business. We're including us.
Yeah, totally.
Like everyone's making this up as they go. There is no rule book. Some of the things I've done, some of which you've been part of as well. I don't know about the key decision or like in our Hology experience,
Yeah,
hiring a CRO.
totally.
That was, well, that's our next thing. We have to do
What
that.
people do.
I was
Yeah.
doing sales and we hired a couple of senior professional sellers. And then it got to the point, well, we have a goal, even this of like, I could peel the onion back to even more of these. You raised a round of funding. That means you're going to have to raise another round of funding, which
Totally.
is the investor message. Oh, okay.
Yep.
How do we do
Yep.
that? Well, you're going to have to grow sales. You're going to have to double sales every year for the next 3 years. Okay. Wow. That means we're going to have to hire a lot of sellers. I've never done that before. I guess we need to hire a CRO.
Yep. Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you have to hire a CRO. How do I do that? Well, I have a recruiter that specializes in CROs. Well, of course we have to hire that recruiter. And they have to have this, all of these things that sound right, or
Yeah.
you're Googling you're looking at other CRO job descriptions. Well, I guess that's what a CRO does. Okay. Never having done that before. And that was a big one. And who we hired, Chris, who we love still, but even he, a
Yeah.
couple of years in, he's like, you guys don't need me here.
I remember Chris when we were trying to get to make a number at the end of the quarter, and just he's the best guy in the world, and also acknowledging like I think he was like, listen, I will come to your house and do your laundry. He's saying this to his salespeople so that you can hit your number because there's nothing for me to do, but I'm here to do whatever. And so
which is a remarkable honesty that you're not going to get in any of those
you don't get
mishired
yeah
CROs.
yeah that's how I knew I wanted to work with him again.
Another one I'd say is going to you'll hear me say a lot here, going to conferences because everybody's at that conference.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe I'll use an example of I'll pick on Rob, our CEO of A2 Influence, and Rob is great, but he just kind of went through one of these. He's a first-time CEO. He and I talked about this. What's it like being a first-time CEO 2 years ago, and he's doing great. But he had never gone to CES, and yet a bunch of people in the industry were saying, "Are you going to CES? Are you going to CES?" And if you may know that CES is, I think, the second week in January. People just got over the holidays. It's in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Timing sucks for family. You're starting to trying to get the year going at your business, and yet everybody goes to CES. And in my lifetime, nobody went to CES except people selling electronic products. And then somehow the marketing industry started going there, and then it became a thing, and then it feeds on itself. And he didn't want to go, but it was this peer pressure of, well, we have a few clients that are going, and all these other people say we're going, and why aren't you going?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we led it up to him, but he chose not to go, and part of it was just because everybody's going doesn't mean you're going to get great meetings. In fact, the clients that were going were having direct meetings with us at their office. So why, would we need to go out there for that? To have a
Yeah,
cocktail for
totally.
half an hour, maybe. Um, so he made what was really hard. There's the FOMO that comes in. I mean, all these
Totally.
things. I felt it so many times of not going to these events, and what have happened, or somebody there, and what if there's some deal or whatever. But he said no, and he came back the next week and told us he's so glad he didn't go because he and the team got to do a ton of planning for the year ahead.
Yeah.
Two huge meetings with other clients that didn't go to CES
Sounds
because
productive.
everybody's out there. There's more time on the
Yeah.
calendar in a way.
Yeah.
And bang, things are off to an amazingly fast start. Plus, just being out of office, you can't do anything when you're in Vegas. It's taxing. It's Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so all those events, I think every time I've done something new, I've done less and less events. I'll do one more that we had well, pitch contests is another huge one
Oh, yeah.
for me
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of first time founder. There's no shortage of both free and pay to play pitch events, speed datings, corporate pitch contest. We're going to give a $10,000 check to the winner, all these things. I wrote about this in my Substack a while back, of even going out to the Cannes Advertising Festival, where one of our big CPG, not really even a customer yet, but they put us in their program and gave us a spot to pitch in Cannes. I don't think any of those things ever gave
No,
a
not at
single
all.
nickel of business.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me, as you're describing some of these stories, and I have some to share as well. Like, I have this. You tell me if this is a useful direction to go or not, but I have this like natural kind of compulsion to try to throw themes around them to say like, hey, that's a good example of a theme of a thing that is often symptomatic of playing business. And so one of which that the hiring Chris Lebdell, as amazing of a guy as he was, is like maybe the number one symptom I often see. Again, I'm mostly drawing from like our time in startups, but also just like agencies, which is very broadly like the idea of spending ahead of growth, but even specifically like this idea that like, yeah, I'm starting a business. So first of all, I got to get this big leadership team. Like we got to have somebody who does sales, and we got to have somebody who does like strategy, and we got to have, all these like expensive heads who own these things well in advance of there being any clear indication that there's work for these people to do at all, right? And that obviously it can exist at the leadership level, but it can just also exist. You had a term, I think I'm attributing this to you correctly, but it doesn't matter. It's yours now. Where we would say at Ahology, like, we'll spend when it hurts, right? Like,
Higher when it hurts. Yeah.
higher when it hurts. Exactly. Higher when it hurts.
Well,
And the opposite of that, of course, is like hiring in excitement or in aspiration of it eventually hurting. And so yeah, I would say that is a classic. Because to be honest, again, people, some of that is not knowing what to do. Like, oh, I mean, there's this like natural intuition that is like, well, how could I possibly sell a thing if I don't have a person to do it? So I must get the person to do it before I sell a thing or before I am at risk of delivering it. And that's just the wrong way to think about it. Go get the demand, and then realizing, of course, that one thing that you can learn, or that you should learn, that helps you avoid a lot of these pitfalls, is that in every business there's supply and demand, right? Demand is coming from your customers, supply is generally coming from you, your ability to deliver against or to the demand. The demand is the hard part, always, always, always. The demand is always the hard part. The supply is always the easy part. So if you find yourself prioritizing supply over demand for basically any problem, I can almost guarantee you've gone the wrong direction.
mhm.
You are playing business over here because that's easier and it feels productive. Anyway, so I thought that was good. The other thing I just want to see, so that's like number one. We can go back to that, but you gave a couple examples. Cannes example and your pitch competition, which was consequently at Cannes, but also outside of Cannes. And I have a theme that I have put around that, which is playbooks and proxies.
Hmm.
People who are looking for silver bullets, right? Like who imagine like, oh, listen, I'm starting a business. There's an answer out there. I'm just going to do the easy. There must be an easy way for me to get X, get capital or to get customers or whatever it is. And so, like so this would be a clear proxy, right? Like, oh, everybody goes to CS. I got to go to CS, or I got to go to Can, or I got to do pitch competitions, or whatever, because that's what everybody else is doing. Playbooks are a funny one. Like literally I mean, my my anecdote on that is like if you're on LinkedIn and you see somebody you're connected to that comments playbook on somebody's post because that's like the thing, that person's playing business. They might both be, but you know what I mean? That's a person who is, and I get it. I'm not like actually trying to, there's valuable stuff out there, but my point is this idea that there's a discrete answer out there that you just don't have access to,
Hmm.
that I just can go get because somebody else has it and they're gatekeeping it,
Hmm.
is fundamentally flawed, right? There is not a single answer. These are not Rubik's cubes that have like a specific solution. They're snowflakes. They all have their own very specific solution. And so you can sort of learn this person tried that person tried that, but the answer's in the work. The answer isn't doing it yourself and running the experiments and trying to figure it out. So anyway, anyway, your two stories were just like for me very clearly thematically in a couple of these buckets I just see all the time.
Well, can I throw a maybe? I like the bucket idea. Here's something else. I just
Yeah.
got one of these half hour before logging in here. Maybe we can call this the validation bucket,
Let's go there.
which is I have this amazing thing and I'm just looking for validation. I'm just looking for more people to tell me how great it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or or celebrating before you're in, not even before you're even on the field, much less put something into the end zone. And
Yeah.
it's the person who starts the startup and they've got the carefully crafted story of when I was a child, this was my dream, and
Yeah.
we'll get a customer, or
Yeah.
I got one now that I got this,
Yeah.
the greatest idea. I know it's been done before, but I'm doing it much better than anyone else. Or I know this
Totally.
thing failed in the past. It's failed 10 times, but it's not going to fail this time because I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of like
Yeah.
or other PR activities
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
just totally, it's a 5-person startup with no open roles that's trying to get employee workplace awards, or creating
Well,
culture
yeah. What's
documents, when you have 3 founders. That stuff's for later.
the I mean you like to sort of you like to understand the psychological motivation of certain things. So I'm going to ask you a question about that, because in general, a lot of things in playing, a lot of symptoms of playing business, I can ascribe not to um I can describe it like not malintent or anything like that. It's just truly like we're all just doing the best we can. And we just think we don't know the answer. And so we're just like, oh, well, those people seem to be doing that. So I guess that's what I should do, whether it's hiring ahead or whether it's, going to pitch competitions or whatever it is. And so, but, that one is an interesting one because there is so much of playing there is definitely a category of playing business that is vanity seeking. You know what I mean? It's the kind of businesses that exist. And I remember this specifically in like the venture back startup days. I would always get so bent out of shape about businesses that would go and again constantly be in the news. Oh, they raised more money, or oh, they've got this potential partnership
Got
over
30
there.
under 30 or top
Yeah. Oh
25
gosh
startups
almighty.
in
30 under
town.
30, 40. Yeah, exactly. Those little like vanity indicators that would create almost like local celebrity in a way. And I could think of, but won't name names, of people who became local celebrities on the back of not legitimate business success, just the impression through vanity metrics of business success. What would be the most sympathetic benefit of the doubt way to read that behavior? Is there, or is that just
Yeah.
like, that's an ego asshole? I don't know.
There's definitely some people out there that I think it's a con. I think let's call it the small group
Okay.
are actually doing
Okay.
stuff like
Okay.
that to con for their
Okay.
current or next thing.
Yeah.
But by and large, and I think when we have done this, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
Startups in particular are so freaking hard. It's so hard. It's,
Yeah.
doing things. It's not, we've built agencies. Agencies are, here's the thing, people
Yep.
have done it before. You get one client, it pays for itself. You don't need to raise money,
Yeah.
but like a software startup, a thing no one's ever done before, a reinvention of this, a disruption of that. These things are, the odds of success are so low. Changing habits, getting people to think of things in a new way, use a thing they've never done. So
Yeah.
you're just on freaking expert mode,
Yeah.
low chance of success. This people who have done it before fail. Like, got it again and failed after having success.
Yeah.
So you got to get something, and the clients are slow to reply. All the
Yeah.
stuff that does move the needle, as you say, it takes a long time, and you're still building it. You're pivoting to
Yeah.
get something that's worth buying, and so I think the most sympathetic thing to say would be that you just need some fuel in the tank,
Yeah.
something to make you
Totally.
feel like you're not a complete farce.
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that when I was going for those little awards, or they said yes. I
It
think
was
I've
just
gotten
like a
better over time.
subconscious
It's like this idea
self-preservation.
is probably going to fail. Let me just go see if anybody wants to buy it. If they don't, okay, I'll do something else. Like there was,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of gotten through, again, ego, and I talk about ego and write about ego a lot. It's not necessarily an evil thing. Like
You're right.
ego can be an asshole, but it can also be the part of you that just wants to protect you from being hurt and feeling
Yeah.
pain.
Right.
And
Yeah.
crawling through glass of a startup is freaking painful. And so it
Well,
reaches for that.
yeah, and I mean, after I asked the question, I kind of had a almost a emotional epiphany where I can remember, you know, just when you start a business, whether it's a startup or anything, it's you feel very vulnerable. Like you let your friends and family know, I'm quitting this job, right? And I'm gonna go do this other thing. And and you imagine, and I think largely you're correct in imagining that many of those friends and family are privately thinking, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like,
Right.
had a good job, and by the way, is doing what I'm doing, right? So they're just acting out of sort of emotional self-preservation. What am I? That guy must be an idiot because he's rejecting what I'm doing to go do this other harebrained thing. He's the idiot. I'm not the idiot. And so, listen, I don't know if this is fair or not, but I've always felt, and I still do, that some of those people are quietly rooting against you. They want you to succeed, but they also don't want you to succeed because you succeeding would validate that your path is right and their path is not right, subconsciously or consciously. And so, anyway, yeah, when you go out there and you put yourself in this vulnerable situation, you definitely don't want to feel like the asshole, even especially when other people are maybe rooting for you to be the asshole. And as you said, it's really hard to generate very concrete success or validation for them to see. Even if you're going to do it, it's going to take a while. And so, these little proxies for validation, whether they're legitimate or not, can help maintain your ego, even if you're not a con artist. So yeah, I
Again,
get it. I
hopefully
get it.
keep you going. Sometimes
Yeah.
it was that,
Yeah.
here's another, I mean, again, but I think at the end of the day, you want to get rid of the ego because you want to be motivated without bullshit. You want to be motivated, like you want to see truth.
Totally.
Like you want to see truth of both, oh, client doesn't buy this, I'm screwing something up. Like you want to know that.
Yeah.
But I guess part of it is, maybe the better way. It's not, let me go give myself some fake honors or awards. It's hey, I know it's hard. I know the odds are long. And if it doesn't work out, I'll get a regular job. It's okay. Like you have to
Totally.
kind of do a
Yeah.
self-talk that's
But
true.
it's really hard. It's
Um,
really hard.
Another thing you made me think of that is why we do this, and we've beaten around this a little bit. It's the social. We live in a social environment, and
Yeah.
whether it's whatever, if it's a bunch of executives, in the the ivory tower, if it's startup community, if it's small business owners going to their mastermind group or YPO group, they have certain here's what everybody else does. And you want to fit in, and everybody else is doing this and everybody else is doing that.
Yeah.
It's kind of this, but the danger, it's like an emperor's
Totally.
new emperor's new clothes kind of thing, where no one's really questioning that. Well, I do this and I do that. And again, every time someone says, even my face is like, well, I do this. Like, I'm doing it and saying this so that you think it's okay. It's like a projection out of what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. Or I remember a couple times where, I was pitching something and one of our old product, and some guy was like, oh, that's just arbitrage.
Yeah.
I'm going to denigrate that. Because, by the way, whatever we want to call it, it's making a shitload of money, and we just sold
Arbitrage is riskless profit. We should all seek arbitrage opportunities.
I know, and it wasn't even
possible.
right, and but there's these. It's like the fakeness, the playing is propped up by each other.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah.
But especially in things like any innovation or startups, the reality is, if everyone just copied each other, then the success rate would be 90% instead of 0.9%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What else do you think? Like, let's go
Go ahead.
to how do we not do this? For maybe it's things we've learned, ways that we still keep each other honest as we're, making new mistakes. The point in your career where you like started seeing what's the advice to help people not fall into the playing business games?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I've had a, and I do have a point of view on this, but honestly, my point of view is evolving a little bit as a result of this conversation, because I do think so much of the source of the behavior is social in nature. It's sort of a combination of, both looking at others, trying to not know. Look, at the core, it's I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And again, surprise, nobody knows what they're supposed to do. Bob and I, between the two of us, have had 5 successful businesses, and then we have subsequently tried to start other businesses that have been, in no uncertain terms, unsuccessful. So it's like, listen, just because you knew how to do one thing doesn't mean you know how to do another thing. Like,
Another
it's
thing,
so hard.
market timing, fucking luck. I mean, all this
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, again, and just to be clear, I can think of several in our Hardy most recent iteration, several things we did that were like, oh, that was really playing business. What the hell were we doing? So again, I just, nobody knows what they're doing, and that's fine. And so much of this is like trying to mimic others, looking for shortcuts, and also not wanting to look stupid in front of others or family and friends and all that kind of stuff. So to be honest with you, some of this has to just be mental. Like, some of this has to just be a recognition of like, what is it I'm here to do, and comfort with the idea that, hey, I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm not here just for the outcome. That's one really important thing, is like, if all you're here for is the whatever, the 10x, 100x, 1000x, you might find yourself, it's really, really, really hard. You got to find a way to enjoy the path in addition to the outcome, because I just don't think you'd ever persevere if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that some of it is just mental, right? And then, and again, getting comfortable with yeah, like I said, the idea of failure. But then I think beyond that, it's if I could only give one piece of advice, I would say it would just be like to keep the main thing the main thing. Like, I just think that it's basically impossible to focus too much. I don't think so. I mean, I guess possibly on the margin, you could be so focused that something would beat you in the head that's a new that you didn't expect and you were blind to it. But in general, 98 times out of 100, playing business manifests itself into a lot of shiny object syndrome, a lot of I don't know what I'm doing, so I try this thing, and then I try that thing, and then I try that thing, and I'm doing a bunch of activities, and they're sometimes the wrong activities, but often it's like I'm not doing any one activity, for long enough. So again, as a for instance, like,
Hmm.
so I believe that if I mean, if let's take let's take CES as an example. That's a classic playing business thing. It's a I'm going what do I think I'm getting out of this? I'm trying to acquire customers. That would be the reason I would go, I think, right? I'm trying to acquire customers.
Yeah.
I show up at CES, acquire, and then I generate revenue. I acquire zero and I generate zero revenue. I do think, though, that if you said, listen, my singular customer acquisition strategy is just conferences, that's all I'm going to do, I think you can be successful. I think you could build a business if that was your main thing. In general, I mean, granted, pitch competitions are not a way to generate revenue. They would be a way to generate fundraising. But I think if your goal was, I'm going to generate fundraising, and you said it's just going to be pitch competitions, I think you could do it.
Hmm.
I think with the right level of focus, any customer acquisition channel could theoretically be the right one for you, with a few exceptions. So long as that's my main thing, I'm focused on being really good at that. And in general, the CES thing doesn't work in part because it's just like I'm showing up at CES. I don't have a fucking conference strategy. I don't have any reason why I'm here. I'm not going to the right conferences. I'm just going. It's a boondoggle. Like I didn't do it right, right? Like I didn't even
Yeah.
think about it thoughtfully. I didn't iterate on the conference to say this is what worked, this didn't, this isn't what worked, this is what my presence needs to be. This is what success looks like. But you could theoretically make that work with the right amount of focus. So again, I think that's probably the first thing I would say. Focus, keep the main thing, try things, iterate on those things.
I like that. I hadn't thought about that. But the focus is good. Like, it also shows, I think, the point of you can't just do it. You can buy a
Yeah.
ticket to CES, you can buy a ticket to Cannes. It's not magic,
Yeah.
But also, I think you have to go in and that is good. Like, we're going to test a bunch of stuff. Like, that's what you do in
Yeah.
your product. That's what you do in sales. But like going in with an honest, like, this might not work, and let me go
Yeah.
around and you're going to the event and you're talking to other people. Like, do you guys get, I've done this more. Like when we relaunched A2, I went to some conferences with Rob, and he was doing the sales thing, and I was kind of like a free agent, and I was like asking other service providers, many people do you send here? What do you get out of this? Is it worth it? Like, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me, how many meetings do you really get? Okay, you did the speed
Yeah.
dating, you got 10 minutes. How many showed up? Were they really good? Did they follow up? Did you get anything? And then and in fact, maybe this will get into, I want to segue into like the corporate world. We've been talking mostly about startups and small businesses.
True.
In
Yeah.
things like the corporate world, they have a ton of money to just throw at shit, and there can be a lot of play there. But
Totally.
but let me give you two other things I think of on how to keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
One, you got there. There's the Socrates method, which is he who is wise admits he knows nothing.
Yeah.
And if you just say that to yourself 100 times a day,
Totally.
that is it. That's why that is considered the wisest statement in history of the human species.
Yeah.
But you could also take a variant of that, the Costanza rule, which, if you remember from the Seinfeld episode, where George decides he's going to do the opposite of every one of his natural inclinations, and he ends up having an amazing, great life until he blows it again. But that kind of thing is, and I think this helped us a lot when we took Ahology and said, we're going to get profitable, we're going to control our own destiny. We just started questioning everything.
Yeah.
And do we really need a CRO? What if just you and I could basically split the sales leadership position? You can help the people hitting the numbers. I mean, we got senior sellers anyway. They're grown-ups. They've been doing this for 20 years each, and they've got a big incentive and big clients to serve. Like, I'll help on the strategy and personal growth side. You help on the numbers and side, and together we built a credible company with that. But just all those, like, do we really need it? Is it really painful?
Do we need to raise another round of funding?
Yeah. Just what if everybody just says? What if everyone just does that and no one really cares? Or they don't feel it, or what if it's all bullshit and we can just say no but and I think that's and it kind of goes under the am I fooling myself because I am the easiest one to fool?
Totally. Totally.
And that might
Yeah.
solve a bunch of it. Um,
Yeah.
but let's segue to the corporate world,
Oh,
because
okay. Yeah.
that's my
Okay.
friend's story kind of got us there. And you and
True.
I
Yeah.
both started our careers in corporate positions.
Uh-huh.
We both sold Ahology to a corporate
Worked
public
a little bit in
corporate
that environment.
company.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We've sold to a lot of big companies in our
Uh-huh.
careers. Why do they play business? What's going on there? Or maybe
Well,
why is it even worse there sometimes?
I mean, I would assume it's many factors worse. And I only say that because um there is no there's no going concern in a startup. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's gonna, like if you work for Coca-Cola, the positive or negative impact that any one individual can make on the trajectory of Coca-Cola is almost immeasurable, with a few exceptions. There's maybe a very small handful of people who could make an impact that anybody would notice at a business like that. And their sort of being there, not being there would make no difference. But obviously, because the thing is just going to continue. That's not true of a startup. You know what I mean? So you can only play business for so long in a startup before the thing just goes away, right? Ultimately, and that's, by the way, what I love so much about startups is that at the end of the day, it's all objective. You can't. There's no politics in a startup. There's no like getting promoted in a startup. You either generate enough revenue for this business to succeed, or you don't, and it fails, and then you go on and do something else. Whereas in a corporate environment, it's both. Again, it's really difficult to have an impact, and it's really difficult to measure that impact, right? How would you? Even if you're in a sales and marketing role, like obviously you started your career in marketing and CPG, but I mean, there's just so many inputs to the sales of Coca-Cola or anything that like it's really difficult to attribute anybody's actions to anything. And so much of corporate uh, success is predicated on subjective measures, because that's all we've got, right? We can't create really good objective measures. So we've got subjective measures. That guy, like, and so much of behavior is um is like, what's going to get me promoted? What is this big flashy thing I can do and show that's going to get me promoted? I made this really cool TV commercial, or I did whatever, whether or not that I mean, it'd be impossible for me to tell you whether that was an objective success or not. And so it just, the incentive structure warps the behaviors. And so the behaviors are directed towards subjective measures of success, which often looks like politics. This person does a good job or is noticed and manages up well. And again, all of those behaviors look like playing business. And by the way, perhaps maybe this is also why playing business is so prevalent in the startup environment, because very few people just like
Hmm.
go straight into entrepreneurship. They go to a big company and they learn these poor behaviors where everybody is just playing business for the most part.
Mhm.
And then they go try to adopt those in a startup environment and are like, oh, wait, actually, I am now accountable to the success of this, and I can move the needle, and I don't know how, because I've never had to do that before.
Hmm.
That might be a source of some of this as well. But anyway, I don't know. That's my take. What do you think?
You nailed what I had. I mean,
Yeah,
I got that. My point was they don't directly feel the outcome of their decisions, if there are truly even decisions, because many of them decisions are shared, but there's, you're not going to learn this stuff unless you're putting your butt on the line, and it's just not.
totally.
It's most most of the corporate opportunities came when the founder built something that just started working,
Yeah.
and then everybody else is guiding a ship. The cruise ship was developed through hard work, luck, timing, blah blah blah, IP, whatever you want to call it, and now we're managing the ship. And so you can screw the ship up quite a bit. I mean, like
Totally.
when I was working on
Yeah.
Tide, we would do an analysis every year of why are people buying this. The number one reason by far was because my mom bought it.
Totally. Right.
And the
Exactly.
number two reason was it happened to be on sale in the end cap. So all the great smart marketing we did and
Totally.
things, it was pretty much kind of you're marginal
Right.
at
You
best.
just, yeah, on the margins.
But then
What would
seeing
you,
also, yeah, good.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you spent more of your career in a corporate environment than I did. I'd be interested, let's just say of our, hundreds of thousands of listeners, some of them are in a corporate environment and are feeling like, hey, I get it. I'm now like, I have an epiphany. I'm seeing playing business all over the place. I'm guilty of playing business. It's easy for me to tell you in a startup environment, here's how you can maybe stop. We can go back to that too, but here's how you
Yeah.
stop playing business and what you got to do. I wonder, is it in a, and maybe I'm just jaded, but what's the version of that advice in a corporate environment? And I ask that question. It seems obvious, but I ask that question because is that even the right thing to do in a corporate environment? Like if you've decided that I am committed to progressing in a corporate environment, is playing business actually your better tactic in some too many situations, given the sort of subjective nature of performance appraisal? Like, is that actually like, hey, you know what, suck it up? That's actually what you're here to do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a
What do
tough
you think?
question for me because I mean, e- everybody's got their own journey. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's some people. But I think everyone wants to make it. I mean, I would say that's of the hundreds of thousands of people listening to this generally want to make an impact, and that's who
Totally.
we're here
I
to
think
speak
so.
with. So
Yeah,
let's just
I think
assume
so.
everybody hearing, within
Yeah,
the sound of our voices, they want to make an impact. I think that is humanity too. We're here
totally.
playing this game. We might as well do something that has some meaning, and it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you get it, and it's not easy, but I think that goes into you've got to look at what's going on in the corporate world today with quiet quitting and
Yeah.
not wanting to go back into the office for more reasons, because it's not a great place to be and
Yeah.
BS there, and the layoffs. It doesn't seem like a place people are happy. We've
Yeah.
got a society that doesn't seem to be happy despite almost full employment.
Right.
With a little blip of inflation, all the stuff we'd ever want is cheaper and better than it's ever been in our lives. So I think I'd go back to what for me the attitude of going into the corporate world was. I'm here to get shit done, and
Hmm.
that was so. And I don't care if I get fired,
Yeah.
or why would they fire me for trying to grow this business? And I bent the rules, and I was like, arguing with legal and
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I'll ask for forgiveness later and do this and that, and but all in the spirit of and doing things that were for my personal growth, for things that would help me run a business someday. I mean, I was very selfish, but at the same time, everything I did was in the spirit of how do I grow this business? Let's do the right thing.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of like I think there's a lot more room for that in the corporate world than the people in there think.
Yeah.
And sometimes people
I think you're right.
find, I know my bosses suck, but I'm going to build. I talked to a buddy of mine. He's like, yeah, there's a bunch of bullshit and bureaucracy above me, but I've got a great little team and we're doing something. And I think
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
find a pocket of, I can be a good leader for my team and they're happy.
Yeah. That's cool.
And I'll deal with the slings and
Yeah.
arrows of above me in the politics. And I don't care if I get promoted. I just want, have this
Yeah.
here and have one cool project that's makes a difference.
Yeah, that's cool. Reframing what meaning and success looks like in your own objective terms, sort of determining as best you can the rules of the game that you're choosing to play.
Yes. But I would also say another thing. Let me answer my own question and then flip it back to you.
Great.
Is when I was talking to my friend who triggered this whole story, she's like, "Okay, I guess I got to get the resume ready. Now what?" And I get a lot of
Mhm.
questions on people who say, "Are there any good leaders out there, Bob?" Because again, the people who come to me are struggling with
Sure, sure, sure.
tough companies, if they're in something else. So I don't get the people who are loving their jobs usually. But
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, I've heard some awful stories, and the companies I've had to be a part of, through selling our businesses have not been a great experience.
Yeah.
But I said, here's the one thing to look for when you talk to, say, you're interviewing, or especially if you get to the CEO. Do they admit they don't know what they're doing?
Mm.
They in any
Mm.
way, say so. The A good example I heard from another friend who was looking at joining a company in kind of a COO type role is, the CEO said, "Look, I'm really over my head here. I've never done this before. I'm not sure of this. Man, can I hire you as a consultant for a little bit first? If you want to do that, we'll do that. If then we hire, like,
Mm.
just
That's cool.
totally open about, man, I don't, I need the help." And I think that's the, versus most others are, well, I know what I'm doing. And, they're,
Mm-hmm.
why, why you, the questions are
Yeah, yeah,
about,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, why should I hire you? What about this? Or, try to trick you, or not have time for the interview. It's half
Yeah.
an hour and go. And they talk about
Yeah.
themselves the whole time. Like, if they're just really exposing themselves, I think that's a good sign that they've got their ego down enough. And then, that's, I think, companies to join too, is joining one that has, obviously this can go the backfire, of course, but going to a company that needs a turnaround,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not, nobody's sitting there building their rearranging their deck chairs.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we got to solve this thing now, and we don't have time. Like, the BS starts crumbling
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because we
Yeah.
got to save this thing. What else? How
Yeah, I
else
mean,
would you
listen,
advise
I,
people?
well, listen, you mean on this particular, like, how do I sort of how do I detect whether this is going to be a place where there's a good leader, good leadership or not? I
Yeah,
mean,
or even
that's
as you onboard a new client, you know,
mm. Oh, as in,
upsell.
like, do they have good leadership, or do they
Yeah,
um yeah, well, listen, I think that all my answers are very are kind of synonymous with or indicative of the same underlying thing as yours, right? Where it's a, there's a whether the attitude is very top down, we know what we're doing, this is our way of doing things, we figured this out or whatever, versus um bottoms up. It's not often. I mean, like, so if I'm a person and I'm interviewing somewhere, I might have a different kind of a conversation with the leader than me at my firm as their outsourced CFO who is being hired, right? So I'm more likely to hear a vulnerable CEO. They feel like they can be vulnerable with me than a person who might be applying for a job at a company. That anecdote you shared is amazing, though I can imagine it's probably so rare because just it's just one of those things where people don't even feel like they can say that kind of stuff. um but yeah, listen, like, so a different version of the same thing. Like, I know for sure, so again, you would hire us because we are experts in a specific thing, right? And I am always very clear that, listen, we're smart people. I hire smart people, but we are experts because we've seen the movie like a couple hundred times. We're not expert because we're like uniquely brilliant, or like we're figuring this stuff out like you are. We just have better data than you do, and we are selling it to you through our experience, right? And so, um, if a so everybody like kind of says the right thing, but if a business is truly interested, and they'll say they're interested, but engages with our recommendations for how to do things versus ingrained in their own way of thinking about things. So again, like, so often we'll have somebody that'll bring us in, and then they'll like, oh, I want your recommendation about how do I create. I mean, I'm thinking of a specific client in my mind right now. What's your recommendation on this kind of comp policy, or how we might structure this kind of uh, profitability reporting among certain leaders? Great. Okay. I've done this a million times. Here's exactly how you do it and why, by the way. It's not my own ego. I'm just telling you, this is, if your goal is to try to do X, then here's how if your goal is X, then here's the tactics of Y. Oh, yeah, that's really interesting, but I really want this and I really want that, and we're going to do it this way. It's like, okay. But ultimately, this is obviously going to fail And again, I don't know if that behavior is playing business per se, or just indicative of the kind of people who are more likely to be playing business. But I can tell you that that's a business that's not as likely to succeed as one that's like, if I go into a business where I see a bunch of bottoms up innovations, like here's a problem that this entry level person had a solution to, and then the whole organization adopted it, like that looks like that's an environment that is open to a bunch of different opinions and a bunch of different solutions, and that's the kind of place you want to be. And if you don't see that kind of stuff, that's indicative of an organization where these are people who are unwilling to admit that they don't know the answer, and instead feel like they must pretend like they know the answer to everything, and everything is top down. And those organizations I rarely see succeed over the long term.
Hmm. What a great interview for people interviewing in the last couple minutes when you get to ask a question or two. What a great question to ask. Like, is there a time where someone very junior has come up with something that's
Yeah,
made a
the
big
whole
difference in
company
the company?
adopted, or
Um,
yeah.
because even a company that does that, they also know those stories.
Mm-hmm,
You know, the
mm-hmm.
smart leader keeps that story in the back pocket and says it
Yeah.
all the time as one of those credibility
I
builders.
tell every person I interview stories like that before they ask, because I want them to know that, whether they care or not. I don't know. I want them to care, and I want them to hear it.
But what about, like, I will say,
Okay.
people also are good at fake humility. And that's another thing to watch out for. The ego is tricky. Like, oh, we really, there's the lip service, or look on the wall. Ideas from anywhere. Or, don't believe all that either. That can be
Yeah,
another
yeah, yeah,
playing
yeah.
business thing.
Yeah, totally. I think you can tell the difference. I don't know. I mean, in the world of, I do think, like, if you're talking to somebody, it's easy for a slick, confident, often white guy to give you this kind of like perception of, oh yeah, to create fake humility.
Mhm.
But I think getting to real life examples, like, we value everybody's opinion. I'm always asking for people's opinion, and I meet with everybody, and I host town halls. These are like performative things that a slick, ego-driven person might say. But it's like, okay, yeah, but tell me at one time that you got something out of one of those town halls that we actually implement. I'd like to hear more about that. I think that's kind of where rubber meets the road. I think as long as you're prying for real examples, you can kind of dispense with the fluff.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be well, tell me about a time. It's like, oh yeah, really? Oh, how did that?
Yeah.
You know, you,
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing with
boy,
it now?
that's what I mean. I
Yeah.
haven't had to interview, thank God, in a long, long time. But if you can have the confidence to go into interviews, and we had a recruiting business, so we
Yeah.
spent a couple years on both and all sides of this thing, hired a bunch of people. But man, if you could have people have that, when people get into the hiring position, especially by the time they talk to the CEO, they're almost so excited about the job that they
Totally.
they forget they're telling a story to themselves, and they don't want to look for the cracks in their own
Totally.
in the company's story, and that can be really hard. But this is kind of one of the things where I believe people should be, you know, unless you're completely excited, you should be interviewing all the time. Not like
Yeah,
every month, but every
I
quarter
agree.
or something, or when people reach out and it sounds interesting, like, have a conversation. Like, it doesn't, and just like any negotiation, that's what an interview is. It's a negotiation. When you don't have to take the deal, it's just such freedom. And
Yeah,
ask the kind of questions that you say of, like, oh well, like, you're just having a conversation and you're evaluating, not completely pitching yourself or
right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
thrilled or thinking about what the offer is going to be or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap it up, and I want to wrap it up
Okay.
with one more suggestion. How else to stop fooling yourself and get to great ideas of what should you do, because this all comes from, I got to do something now, I think.
Hmm.
Sometimes the answer is do nothing, but these are all about, what do I do with my business? I guess I'll copy everybody else or play
Yeah.
business. Another thing that people can do is go find impartial voices for advice. And that
Mm.
is a plug for something I do And I always have my open calendar here for people who want to talk about anything. Click that link. Ryan, I know you pay it forward and have lots of meetings with lots of people for lots of reasons.
Totally.
So I will share your LinkedIn link
Yeah.
as well for other people that might want to learn more about your perspective. But I'd say again, the people like us we've been in your shoes. We've acquired some wisdom. We're not judging you. And we really want to try it. And that's why we're sitting here right now, is to help provide some useful direction to help you think differently and not be those friends who are wanting you to quit your startup
or those like gurus who just want to milk money from you.
Yeah,
right? Like
there's no business.
You got to be careful about that. You want to get somebody who, whether it's somebody like us or anybody else, like you definitely, I totally agree. Having somebody who can see what you see, but has the ability to say it to you. You know what I mean? Like, but beware of like the sort of guru coach, whatever. Not to denigrate coaches. There's plenty of good ones, but just in general, looking for somebody to tell you the answers. That's not what you're looking for. You don't want somebody to prescribe the answers, but somebody who can be a mirror for you, who can help you see what you are observing but unable to put words to, and help clarify. Anyway,
love it. So we'll do that for you.
Yeah.
Find us, and thanks, Ryan, for joining me again.
Thanks for having me. 100th episode.
This counts as our one-on-one for this week.
Mark it down.
And I'm sure I will have you back on before we hit 200.
Sounds good.
We're
Can't wait.
You tread. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Ahoy for now.